Hey everyone, and welcome back to Rocks Fall, your home for the best reviews, creator interviews, and actual play in the podcasting world. So we're going to get right to the interview, but first, a short message about how you, listener, yes, you right there, can contribute to the show. Would you like to hear your tabletop product or RPG reviewed on this show? Reach out and get in contact. We're always looking for input from creators. Send any material you'd like us to consider reviewing to Rocks Fall, care of Devin Truby, P.O. Box 61162, Reno, Nevada 89506. And, like what you hear, leave us a review wherever you found the show, and feel free to reach out on social media and through email. We can be found at RocksFallCast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you had any PDFs you wanted us to look over for potential review, hit us up at rocksfallpod@gmail.com. Again, that is rocksfallpod@gmail.com. Thank you so much and enjoy the interview, everyone. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Rocks Fall. I'm nervous with you here.
Why?
I don't know. Like, we've done over 100 hours of podcasting, and I'm nervous with you. Okay.
Didn't you just say you have like an introduction? And you just introduced it.
Yeah, but I think it's a whole thing. Don't worry.
Sorry.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Rocks Fall, and today we're going to be talking about Tales from the Loop. It is a game from 2017 and created by, and I apologize if I butcher these names, Simon Stalenhag, Niles Heinz, and Tomas Herenstam. It's a pretty cool game. You play as a group of kids in a kind of a post-apocalyptic world, which is sort of based off of our own, where there's been some catastrophic things happening after something called the Loop has been started. It's kind of like a big Hadron Collider. It's pretty cool. But today, instead of reviewing the book, because I'll do that later, I'm going to try something a little different. And I have a guest today here. Her name is Lauren.
Hi.
For those of you who have listened to my to the other podcast that I co-host, The Streamer's Guide to the Galaxy, you'll recognize her as my lovely wife.
Yeah.
Woo. So she actually had a brilliant idea because she loves.
I'm full of brilliance.
she's.
I just come in and I drop knowledge bombs and then I walk out. That's my job.
Exactly. So she likes these games, but isn't. Is it fair to say you're not really attuned to like the technical side of how these games run?
Correct. Yeah. Well, yeah, like I'm a newbie. I mean, basically, to put it in layman's terms, we've been playing D&D since March of last year, so March 2017.
Yeah.
So I'm fairly new to the idea of role-playing games in general, right? And how they operate, all of that stuff is still really new to me.
Well, she's good with the D&D, the D20 system from D&D. But
Let's not play it fast and loose with the word good there, Devin.
So
let's calm down, okay?
So on the shelf that is adjacent to Lauren currently in our studio, there's probably, I want to say 20 or 30 different systems that I have there besides just.
Okay, yeah.
So
I can see them now.
So there's
I see them with my own
and
eyes.
the majority of these systems have different ways to create characters and play the game and all that stuff. Right. So Lauren had the great idea to go through a random system that I just picked out, and create a character, and then talk about how what it was like for someone who's kind of sort of used to it, like me, and Lauren, who's a newbie.
Yeah. So an expert and a newbie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why you're saying kind of sort of used to it. Like, you have a podcast dedicated to this, and you feel like you only kind of sort of are used to the topic. You want to maybe rewind that tape and like say something different?
Thank you for indulging my hobby, dear. Okay, so again, we're talking about Tales from the Loop. It's a really cool game. You can for folks who want to know more about it, it's everywhere. There's also a sequel to this game called Things from the Flood, I believe. And it's currently on Kickstarter. It has 15 days left on its Kickstarter. as of this episode release. So when this episode will be released, it'll have 15 days left on this Kickstarter. And it's pretty cool. You can pretty much recreate like the Goonies, if that's ever sort of an adventure that you wanted to play. If you're familiar with the movie The Goonies, this is exactly the system that you will want to play to recreate an adventure like that.
Like, to me, the appeal that I think you should talk about also is like the whole Stranger Things concept. Because to me, this is Stranger Things.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a more appropriate thing to say than the Goonies, because like, what?
Well, okay, so the Goonies is a
like
fantastic
Stranger
movie.
Things, like,
But yeah, Stranger Things.
you can live that basic. I mean, practically,
You
right?
can recreate Stranger Things.
Yeah.
All that cool stuff. So like those, Stand By Me, Stranger Things, the Goonies.
Didn't somebody die in Stand By Me?
Yeah, an adult, I think.
Really?
I'm
I
pretty
thought
sure
it
it's
was
an
a kid.
adult. I don't know. I haven't seen that movie in a really long time.
Sorry.
And but yeah, it's very cool. So let's jump right into it, Lauren.
Okay.
So
we created characters last night. We had to use the same book because Devin only has one copy of the book. I know, lame, right?
yeah, right.
What kind of an expert is this?
It's a hard game to find.
Okay, whatever.
I'm lucky I found the copy I have.
Whatever. Always excuses, but it's fine. But we didn't. I just want to say, like, we kept it honest. Like, I didn't ask for help on anything in creating my character. I just read through the same book that Devin read through, and we each created our character.
Yeah,
and there was one point where, like, I reached for a dice and I rolled a dice to, like, determine some numbers, and Devin's like looking at me like, what? And I'm like, you know what? We'll talk about it on the podcast, okay? I'm reading the book. This is what it's telling me to do, and that's what I did. And I'll explain it. I wrote down why.
So like now I'm terrified I missed something, but like I don't think I did. So I'm really curious as to why you pulled out dice, because it sells itself as a pretty diceless character creation. Okay, so the book actually, it's got an entire chapter dedicated to character creation, like most books do. And it walks you through every single thing step by step. It really holds your hand, which I think is cool.
Well,
for this type of, I feel
yeah,
that this book really holds your hand through the whole thing. It's really straight up. So there's 14 things that you need to do to make your character, and it's got on a big list here. So you choose your type, which is your character archetype. So like for folks who are familiar with D&D, that would be like your wizard, your rogue, things like that. In this game, there is the bookworm, the computer geek, the hick, the jock, the rocker, the popular kid, the weirdo, and the troublemaker. So it's like those high school, middle school movie archetypes, right?
yeah, Breakfast Club.
It's pretty cool. Then you're going to decide your age from 10 to 15 years. And what's something that's really cool about this game is if your character levels up by aging, and then that's how you get more skill points to be a better character and stuff like that. But if your character ages above 15, your character has to retire. There can't
Once
be
your
games.
character turns 16.
There can't be characters in this game older than 15 years old. Playable characters. There can be parents and stuff like that, but no playable characters are older than 15. Then you distribute a number of points equal to your age into the 4 attributes, either 1 to 5 points in each. You determine your number of luck points. That's equal to 15 minus your age. So what's interesting here is if the older your character is, the less luck they have. So that's kind of cool. You're going to pick an iconic item, which is just something that kind of like talks to you. It speaks to your character, like who they are. The archetype for the 2 characters that we picked, the bookworm and the computer geek, the bookworm has an option, a default option of having a dog, an encyclopedia, or a magnifying glass, and the computer geek has a computer, a pocket calculator, or a toy lightsaber. I obviously picked the toy lightsaber. Then there's problems, drives, pick a pride, define relationships with the other kids in the party, select an anchor, which is kind of something that grounds you into reality, like it's a safe spot for your kids to go, things like that.
Well, and I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to be talking.
Go for it.
Or what. The anchor is the person that you go to, and when you act out scenes with that person, you can heal. It's like how you feel.
Yeah, so
It's talking to your anchor.
Yeah. Then you name your kid, write a short description.
I totally understood.
And then choose your favorite song from the 80s. I picked a song from the 90s and then had to erase it and pick another one. So
I didn't even go back and do the song.
And then as a group, once all that's done, so you do those 14 things, and then as a group, you define the group's hideout. So like where you're going to, your clubhouse, your treehouse, your comic book store, your, friend's basement, all those archetypal hideout, hangout things, which is pretty cool. And then you answer the game master's questions. You, and then that'll help the group form like motivations and purpose, which is kind of cool. So that's your character right there. So Lauren, let's talk about the character sheet. I'm really interested to get your opinion on what you thought of this character sheet.
So,
and this will be the one in the back of the book.
I like the character sheet in its simplicity, but as a newbie, and I feel this way about D&D, like still to this day. I want a character sheet that has all of the rules and stuff on it. I need a character sheet that says, like for instance on this one, right underneath where it says luck, it explains to me what luck is used for, how I get it, how it gets taken from me. Like, I need the rules right in front of me on my character sheet. I need like a box underneath that tells me that. Like, same thing for like the pride. Like, why do I care what my pride is? Those kinds of things I need to know.
True. Yeah.
And I guess on a character sheet for D&D, like there are like boxes and things like that you can write in, but like to be perfectly honest, those boxes are like really small in a lot of ways. The lines on them are like useless. And I know this character sheet, can you show me again? Because Devin's hogging the book. It has a small notes section, which is cool, but like, I don't know. I need to know what these things are. I don't want to have to like pause the game and like look back into the book at the rules and say, okay, what does the pride thing mean again? Why do I have to remember that my pride is that I'm the smartest kid in school?
Yeah.
To me, that's stressful.
Yeah, and this book does do really well with laying everything out in the chapter where there's character creation, but there isn't any reference.
For you, yes.
But there isn't any reference on the character sheet as to what that stuff is.
So that's true of all of these games.
That's a good idea. I think that would be really cool if someone could make something like that.
For newbies, I need that. I need a reminder of what things are. Because I'm not going to memorize this. I know some people can, and that's cool. Like, you probably would know, or you would feel comfortable at least with what knowledge you have in order to do it. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, actually, because it is a ton of information. And I talked about this a little bit with my interview with the folks from the Deck of Many. I believe that was the last episode, based off the order of release. And we talked a bit about how these games like this were, you had to, there was definitely barriers for entry with games like this. And it's, you have to carry around a giant book with you and memorize these rules and stuff like that. And that is kind of hard for people who are just coming into it. And it could be really intimidating. Mm-hmm. Like, that's one of the reasons why I didn't jump into D&D until probably a little later in my teenage years, is because I started with 3.5 and it was a nightmare, quite honestly. I'm not a fan of 3.5. And it's sacrilegious. I'm not a fan of anything D&D except for 5th edition, just because it's too difficult. It's I don't want to have to perform algebraic equations to determine whether or not if I kicked a dude, Yeah. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So that's my thoughts as far as character sheet. What did you think of the character sheet?
I liked it. It was simple. It was streamlined. It reminded me a lot of the simplistic form of the Powered by the Apocalypse systems, which is like Dungeon World Monster of the Week. The Adventure Zone has their Monster of the Week podcast that they're currently doing. It's a really simple thing, and the character that's actually even simpler than this character sheet is, because they fit on like a 5x7 card. That's like your character sheet. It's really simple. But this one is it's moving in that direction. So if it was D&D on one end or Pathfinder on one end and this game, and Dungeon World on the other. This one would probably fit somewhere closer to Dungeon World.
In its simplicity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is something to be said for simplicity, because I did appreciate that. I appreciated the like clean look of it almost.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
D&D character sheets have, despite not having what I want on it, it has a lot of information and a lot of crap on there.
And it can be really overwhelming.
Yeah. And I agree that this one is less overwhelming. So it's almost like there needs to be two versions. Like the simplified version, you know, for people who can get it. And then, I mean, like, I'm a teacher. This is differentiation, right? And there needs to be one with the directions written on the page for the kid that is not going to listen to the teacher when they read their directions out loud.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, for most games who have established fan bases and stuff like that, not to say this one doesn't, but it's only a year old, so, like, it is what it is. They have form fillable PDFs that like people like fans have gone out and created these form fillable PDFs where you just hover over something and it'll tell you what that thing is, how to calculate it, things like that. And that's really cool. It doesn't tell you it doesn't do anything if you're in the moment playing the game and stuff like that, but as you're filling it out,
needs to be printed.
It'll tell you. This game, the only PDF version of the character sheet I was able to find was through Modifis's website, which is another game publisher. But it's not a form fillable PDF. It's just a straight PDF of this, so it's a printable, which is kind of weird. But anyway, so let's walk through our characters, babe.
Okay. Well, can I walk through like what I thought about the process too?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I picked what I like and what I also don't like. I'm a very complicated person. So Devin mentioned that like you get the first step is to pick your type of kid, right? Bookworm, computer geek, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And they give like this really cool one pager almost like on your character. And you've got like the little drawing, you've got like a little description of the character.
And I'll post some photos of what this looks like on the Instagram. That's at Roxfallcast on Instagram.
And then underneath that, you have like a lot of the different things that you're supposed to like choose from. So, like part of creating your character, like Devin said, is like picking your pride and your problem and your anchor and all of that stuff. And they give you sample choices, which is really cool. I like that. I like that they gave sample ones.
Yeah, me too.
Because as a newbie, I don't want to create this shit on my own. Like, I mean, I don't. You know, and I'm sure I'm not, like, the standard. I'm sure there are lots of newbies who would. I'm not saying that that's a newbie thing. But it's nice to have options. Especially coming into a game cold. Well, I don't know what the expectations are.
Exactly. So it's really nice to have... I mean, even if you don't use these, it's just examples of what would go into this. You put this type of thing in box B, and that really helps. I think help people formulate their characters. If I mean, new and old, like it helped me out quite a bit. I went through and picked just stuff off just for speed's sake. Yeah. I went through and just picked a bunch of stuff from the thing, but it really could be anything. So, I mean, your point on differentiation is really cool. They have something for everybody here. If you want to go completely off the books, you can. But if you just want to roll a character really quick, just pick from the options. And there's a lot of options. There's at least 3 for every category.
2 to 3.
For the thing. For everything.
Which is cool. And each one does say, like, or make one up on your own. So, like, they're reminding you. You don't have to use these, but you can. Then, my problem, though, with, like, this one-pager thing is that the instructions or the description of each of those categories comes after. So, like, the page says, iconic image, choose one or make up one on your own. And then it lists dog named Tiny, encyclopedia, magnifying glass. And so I'm looking at this page, I'm like, okay, cool, I'm just going to pick one of these things. But then it's pages later, like, that it explains.
You don't even know what the iconic
image, like, it talks about who you are. It gives 2 bonus dice in a situation where it can be used to help you overcome trouble. So, like, the information that would guide me in what I want to pick is later than it is there. And I know that this is probably the easiest way to, like, build a book. You know, it saves on paper and makes things maybe a little bit easier, and you get the cool images and all that, and you get, like, the one-pager, which is really aesthetically pleasing. But setting up your character, again, it doesn't have, like, the description or the rules with the choices that you're making.
Gotcha. So do you think you'd be happier if they put those descriptors prior to listing the characters? That way as you're reading through the book, you would at least be kind of sort of familiar with it? For
me, it'd be iconic image. Iconic item, whatever. Iconic image is a lesson that I did with my juniors. And so I'm confusing it with my job. Sorry. It was a really cool project, but whatever. Iconic item. So I would have it say, like, iconic item. It would describe what it is, and then it would go bookworm. Choose from these three. Computer geek. Choose from these three.
So
which I know would make it complicated.
Would it be more helpful to have like a short blurb as to what those things are as a header, and then have like a thing as like for more detail, go see this later in the chapter?
Sure.
Or would you still want like
I would
just
still
full
want
on
the
information?
way that I said it.
Got you.
But that's better than this. And I don't know. Maybe I'm probably being nitpicky since we're evaluating this process. But I wanted to say, like,
no, that's cool.
That's what came in my mind when we went through this last night.
Yeah.
Like when I was on my own, in my own head, trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
Those were the ideas that like popped in my head.
That's really cool. No, I think that's cool. And sadly, most if not all RPG books are built this way.
Yeah.
I mean, some are more complicated than others, obviously, but there isn't really a super streamlined kind of like what you're talking about, where the information is just right there as you're building it, sort of deal.
Yeah.
D&D 5e comes close to that, but it's still, the information's like in 14 different. I feel like the information's really spread out.
It is.
In that book, it could be a lot more concise.
Yeah. But it would also mean that it's repetitive and that it's bigger and that it's longer and it takes longer to get to the point and all of that. And I understand that. I just wanted to be honest about what my thought process was.
No, that's really cool. So publishers, I mean, if you're listening, I know there's a couple of people out there who are from publishers that listen to the show. Maybe test out some stuff on DM's Guild and see.
It's an option.
Yeah, test it out as a rule generator. Or maybe it's a
supplemental thing. Maybe there's like a free download that comes with your book that, you know, for a newbie, like, hey, check this out if you want like a detailed step-by-step.
Oh, so like a walkthrough supplement.
Yeah, maybe that's way more in depth.
That's cool. Yeah. For folks who are new to this, not only the genre, but to the game itself, have like a quick start rules. That's really cool. Yeah. That's a great idea.
Thanks. I'm pretty smart.
Lauren, you should be a publisher.
Okay. Did you feel like you understood what everything meant?
No, but if I'm being completely honest and like devil's advocate and all that, I have not read through this book 100%. Usually
Do you feel like that's the way it should be done? That's the expectation, is that you would have read chapters 1 through 3 before you went into building your character?
No. So as far as building your character, the expectation would probably be to read through all of chapter 4 and then build your character.
Which we kind of did.
We paged through it and all stuff like that. But my process is a little more in depth when it comes to this sort of thing. When I'm reviewing a book or thinking about it critically, I will read cover to cover, and then kind of take it in as a whole, and then go back to certain parts to try and evaluate it and figure out some stuff. Mm-hmm. It's a process. I mean, because like I read City of Mist, the first edition print of City of Mist, and it's 503 pages or something crazy like that. But yeah, I mean, obviously if I had read through it, I would understand it a little more, but it didn't hinder the process at all, if that makes sense, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, like, yeah, I'd have questions. Like, I'd go back and look through the book to find out what some things were. And there are some things here that I probably wouldn't put too much weight on as far as role playing, like your pride or even really connections to other kids. Just like, that's not really how I play, or that's not my expectation with the players that I run games with either. But I mean, to each their own.
And I think some of those things are established after you've played a while.
I think so too.
Especially with relationships, like thinking about I'm sorry to like keep bringing up D&D.
No, that's perfect.
That's the only comparison that I can make.
Yeah.
Because it's the only other game that I've played in this sort of genre. Thinking about the D&D game that we play with two of our friends, like the relationships that my character now has with their characters is different than how we started. Like that was something that kind of built as we went through and as we kind of figured out, like, oh, that's how she's going to react when I do this, or
exactly,
like that's her belief system, or that's how he reacts in action moments, and then like usually, I establish.
Spoiler alert for the players if you're listening. It's usually we're talking about you, Bernard, and it's blowing stuff up.
And he wanted to be neutral, right? Wasn't that his thing or something? Or lawful?
He was lawful neutral or something like that.
God, that was funny. Okay. Yeah. So I agree with you. Like, some of that stuff, building your character probably isn't as important as it will be later on once you start playing.
Yeah, and for me, I'm a fan of the game itself, not so much the role-playing aspect of it. I like the adventures, and I like playing it in worlds and stuff like that, but I don't ever see myself as somebody else in these worlds. I have a hard time disconnecting myself from the character. So like I usually just play a version of myself in these games when I'm actually playing. I'm usually DMing or GMing. All right, so Lauren, the big question everybody wants to know is, why did you pull out dice?
I'll have to find the spot.
In a diceless system.
Okay.
Of character creation.
First off, it mentioned dice a couple of times.
But yes, and I get that, but it mentioned it in the context of playing the game.
Okay, but that's hard to understand. Okay, so let me...
Go for it. Go for it.
From it?
And no judgment. Seriously, everybody, I'm not laughing at my lovely wife.
No, of course he's not. I mean...
We've
been together for a long time.
This is just one of the issues that comes up when people are new to these systems. Like, I've fucked up all the time on stuff.
So let me read you. So the issue came up with, so I rolled dice to determine my attributes.
Yes.
So attributes fall into 4 categories. You've got body, tech, heart, and mind. So this is the description in the book for how you figure out attributes. Okay.
Go for it.
This isn't where I got the rolling thing from, but I just want to read this first and then
just context. Yeah.
So under attributes, it says, your kid is defined by 4 attributes that tell you what you are good at and how you can cope with trouble, with a capital T. The attributes are body, tech, heart, and mind. The attribute scores range from 1 to 5 and correspond to the number of dice that you roll when you try to overcome trouble. And then it explains like what each of those categories are. And then it says, starting scores. Distribute points equal to your age and the 4 attributes. Your starting score can be no higher than 5 in any attribute. You need to take at least 1 in each attribute. Okay, so those are the directions. No fucking clue what that means, okay? When I read that, and still reading this today, like, no fucking idea. Am I allowed to curse?
Yes, that's fine.
I have no clue what that means. Don't tell me, because then I wanna explain my thought process.
Okay, go for it.
So I looked at that and I'm like, that's useless. So then I kept reading, and then I did the luck point things, totally understood that one, did that number, and then I get to the skills section, okay?
Yes.
So here's what it says under skills. Each attribute has 3 connected skills. These are areas where the kid can be well trained. The level of a skill varies between 0 and 5 and corresponds to how many dice you can add to the dice roll when you try to overcome trouble, in addition to the dice from your attribute.
Gotcha.
At the start of the game, you distribute 10 points among your skills, blah, blah, blah. I totally understood the skill distribution, but then there was that line, in addition to the dice from your attribute. And I'm like, okay.
Gotcha.
If dice is associated with my attribute, then I roll dice to determine my attribute. And I'm like, well, there's not a 5-sided dice, so I just used a 6-sided dice to pick numbers. And luckily, each time I rolled, I got under
And this was
5 or below.
Lauren's homebrew. So I glanced at her character sheet really quickly, and her character was 13.
Yeah.
And you only have 10 points allocated. So you're missing 3 points there.
So I don't understand what that means.
So you take your age.
Okay, so I'm 13.
So you're 13. So you have 13 points to distribute between your 4 skills.
Where does it say that?
It says it in the second paragraph on the top that you were reading. The first part that you were reading.
Distribute points equal to your age in the 4 attributes.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I mean, and that's totally fine. And as far as what it's talking about,
very confusing.
right? It took me a couple of read-throughs to figure that out, figure that part out as well. And as far as what you're mentioning, as far as like dice rolls and adding dice and things like that.
Yeah, so it says the level of a skill varies between 0 and 5 and corresponds to how many dice you can add to the dice roll when you try to overcome trouble. Now, I understand that that's part of the game. Dice roll happens in the game. But then it said, in addition to the dice from your attribute. But it didn't say that was being rolled in the game, so I was really confused.
And that's where I'm confused still as well, because I have not read this book cover to cover. I've glanced through it, but that what they're talking about there is in a different chapter. That is the gameplay, more or less. And I'm pretty sure how it works is that you roll just a bunch of dice. So with D&D, you take your numbers and then you add a modifier to one die, which is usually your D20 or your hit dice, whatever you're hitting with a weapon or fist or whatever. And then you'll take those static numbers and add it to it. In this one, I'm pretty sure the game works where you take those numbers. So like I had a 5 in
so
tech.
It's kind of like Power by the Apocalypse or whatever they played when they were superheroes on the Adventure Zone.
Fate.
Where they like dice. Rolled a thing, right? And then they would add whatever their heart.
Exactly. And then they counted the plus that you. So with fudge dice, which is the dice the Fate system uses, you roll a number of dice equal to something. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't, again, not read that book from cover to cover either. And then you add up your pluses and minuses, and that's where you stand. With this one, I'm pretty sure, like with my tech, I was saying I have 5. I'm pretty sure I would roll 5 dice. You know, so and then add any additional, like your modifiers aren't.
That still doesn't sound.
They're not modifiers to your number. They're modifiers to the number of dice you roll.
Okay.
So, I mean, So, I mean, I really need to read this book a little more thoroughly, but this definitely shows that you should probably, at least if you're confused with something while you're creating your character, stop creating your character right there and then go figure out what the hell it's talking about somewhere else.
It also says to me that you have to know how the game is played in order to create your character.
Exactly.
Which to me is kind of a barrier with these systems because, I mean, you know me. Yeah. I'm not a big...
I mean, you don't even read the cover. You don't even read the dust jackets on books.
Right. I don't like to read the rules. I just want to get into it.
Exactly.
I just want to, like, I'm in it. I'm playing this game. So to me, that would be another barrier that I would have to either read the entire book to understand how the game is played and understand it and then create my character and then get to play.
Yeah.
I can't just... roll it. Like, I can't just be a character and then just fuck it, let's play this and let's see what happens, and then we figure it out as we go.
Yeah, and that's partially why the majority of these books are geared toward the person who's going to be running the game as opposed to the players.
That's fair.
Because and that's also why D&D has a separate book for the DM and a separate book for the players. And Call of Cthulhu did the same thing with this 7th edition, because their books are usually like 700 pages long. And but yeah, this book is all in one. So it was a little irritating that the character creation comes before the chapter on gameplay for me, just because you have to know how to play the game to make your character. Mm-hmm. I really liked it though. I mean, overall, what was your... Was it fairly painless?
I have a few other things to say.
Go for it.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Damn, she's got a list.
I do. I have a whole list that I wrote, like half a page of notes.
Okay, let's do this.
There's only like 3 more things that I want to talk about and ask about. No, 4 more things. And then I can say my overall. 1, you're told to pick a birthday, but there's no spot on your character sheet to write that down. which I think is weird.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
Because obviously it's important to the game, because once you hit 16, your character's done. And every year, like, you level up on your birthday. So it's important to know it, but there's no spot on the character sheet. So I just wanted to say that. I like the addition of the favorite song. I don't understand it.
It doesn't really seem to have a purpose.
Like, that it's just for funsies. It has no effect on it. But
so honestly, I would skip that part on the character sheet altogether. If it didn't add to the game at all, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you might have kind of cleared this up already, but like you said, there's this part with questions, and the game master is supposed to ask the questions of the characters and of the group, which I think is kind of cool in the sense that it really gets people into who they're playing, but it's also like, I'm not in a fucking play. Like, I don't need to know, like, I don't need to become, what did I even name my character? I didn't need to become Rachel to be able to play this game. Like, I'm still Lauren, but it's cool. It's cool that Rachel's on paper now, right? But
yeah, and I don't
need that step, I guess.
I don't think, and I haven't ever experienced this with any players or anything like that in my history with these games, that those are all things for people who are really into role playing.
Okay.
Like when they sit down,
like they're in a
are
play.
Their character.
Yeah, they're in the play.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's just
cool.
That's just not how we play.
Okay. Good to know.
And that's not my expectation at the games that I run, and that's not what I do when I play myself. You know.
But other people do.
Yeah, it's like
cool. I mean, they were interesting questions, and I think it's a cool conversation starter for sure.
No, I agree. It's an interesting concept. I'm pretty sure there are other games that do the same thing, but I think this one does it really well.
So should I read a sampling, or
sure.
Do you want to read? Okay. So some of the questions to ask the kids. It says, in what way has your problem gone from bad to worse lately? What do your parents do for work? What do you think about school? What is your favorite food? Which is very detailed. What does your room look like? What do you dream about at night? What makes you angry? And then there are questions for the whole group. Who in the group has the most to say? Who dislikes you? What secrets do you have? What are you fighting about? Who among you is most mocked? Who's the leader? Like, I mean, they're interesting ideas to kind of figure out your dynamics, but they might not be for everyone, which I totally understand.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for your insight.
Yeah. I'm sorry if it was too much.
No, it's fine. It's good.
I feel like I made this into like an hour-long podcast. And
no.
You're thinking like a tight 20.
No.
And then I came in and I'm like, well, actually, Devin.
No, this is good. This is good. It was a great idea. And we'll definitely do it again.
Oh, can I say my overall thoughts, though?
Yes.
Because I feel like I was being really critical of the game. To me, I think this game is really cool. I think the sound and the look of it is really unique and sounds really fun.
Yeah.
I also think, I mean, you can't hold me to this because most likely it won't happen, but this could be the type of book that I would read the entire thing from. Yeah. Right? Like, I would want to read this entire book, and I would want to be one of those people who dives into it and like figures out how it operates and what the dice means and all of that stuff. Like, I could see myself getting invested in this game more than I feel invested in D&D. Like, don't get me wrong, I love D&D and I love when we play it, but when we're done playing it, I'm done. I don't want to think about it. I'm not like spending time. I could see myself caring more about this.
And that was something that struck me as well. Like you immediately, when I picked this book up, you were immediately drawn to it. You're like, this is great. This is cool. The artwork is amazing. Cool. And again, I cannot state enough times that this book is gorgeous.
Yeah, it really is.
And
it's just cool.
I pegged this book after watching you interact with the book, and actually, like, I saw that little spark there when you were looking at it. I would play a game that you GM off of this book. I think that you would do very well running a game with this book.
Interesting. That makes me nervous
Not, I mean, nobody's forcing you to play a game.
No, but also like excited. Like I would be interested in figuring that out. More so than I'm interested in figuring out how to roleplay D&D.
Yeah.
And maybe part of it is not roleplay, DM. Maybe part of it is that it's a newer game and that everyone else would also be starting from the bottom like me.
That's true.
Whereas with D&D, like I'm playing with like you and our other friend who plays, like you guys really know a lot about it, and so it's kind of intimidating. Like there's no way I could like DM Devin. Like I would mess up like immediately, and then I would feel like garbage and like, you know.
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of it, but it's also just really, really cool. It's a cool concept.
It's very cool.
I love the 80s. I like Stranger Things. I like this idea that you're playing as kids. I like the idea that you can't die.
Yeah, and that's always cool too. As you read through this game, and maybe this will just be my review episode as well, but as you play through this game, I think this book, I mean, you can listen to my review of Cosmic Patrol as well. I think it's like my first episode actually, but it does, in this one book, it does what it takes several Wizards of the Coast books to do as far as world building.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
And
the world is there.
Exactly.
You can feel it. You can see it.
You get a sense of it. And the photography. So this game is based off of a photographer, off of work that a photographer has done. He's an avant-garde artist. He puts really strange things in really mundane photos. And this game was really inspired by his work. And that's not only present throughout the entire book, but it's the creators of this game did a really good job integrating the story of the photos into the game, and that's the game, and it's beautiful and it's perfect.
Almost like that. What's that book series where it was like the guy? It's a really popular book series. They made movies about it, where the guy like found photographs, right? And he like based his story off of that. Is it Miss Peregrine's Home for the Peculiar Children or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
Like those are actual photographs that he found.
Yeah, just like those weird ass photos.
Able to like build a world and a story around it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Right? It's totally like that. And it's got that like weird sort of vibe to it, just like this.
Because these photos are good, and much like the other one, much like the books that you're talking about, the photos are unsettling and they're mysterious. Yeah, and these ones are much the same way, and it's great. This book is perfect. If I was to give it a rating, which I know I try not to do because they're arbitrary and shit like that, but I mean this game's perfect.
Hey. Our podcast, The Streamer's Guide to the Galaxy, is kind of like based on rating things, so let's be a little careful with that.
But yeah, I mean, I have no beef with this game. If I'm gonna reference an '80s term, there, it's perfect. I love this game a lot. I'm really excited to play it.
I think that'd be cool to play it a little bit. And maybe read a bit more about it, and then come back and do a follow up if you have me back. I don't know if I'm allowed back yet. I did say the F word a lot.
Oh, you did a lot, like more than me. So
I'm excited, but doesn't that say something? Like,
no, this is great. This is the spark that I was talking about.
Yeah,
this is me with everything on that shelf next to you. Right?
I don't get that, man.
So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, babe.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and if you want to hear more of this, I'm sure hilarious banter, go check us out, our other podcast out, The Streamer's Guide to the Galaxy.
We review the best and worst that streaming services have to offer.
Yeah.
So Netflix, mostly Netflix, Amazon Prime.
We're trying to get into the Amazon Prime game. There's a lot of stuff on there, but
yeah, join us now because next month in October we're doing our bitchin' spooky
our second annual spooky bracket.
Pretty exciting.
Very cool.
We should do this again with other books. I think that'd be cool.
Yes, I have a couple of books I think you would like throw them in the trash out of frustration.
But that might make a good episode. I think it's cool to have like both perspectives, right?
Yeah.
A newbie and an expert. or someone who's kind of sort of familiar with the topic.
Good Christ. All right. So,
Mr. I have a podcast dedicated
everyone,
to this.
All of my stuff is in the description tag. Thank you so much for listening. Follow, like, share, all that stuff.
Maybe let Devin know what games we should test out in this manner with character creation.
Yeah, if you have any games,
suggestions.
If you have any games that you want to, do this on, let us know.
But I don't know what to say at the end.
That's it.
Bye.